New tonight, Senator Lindsey Graham inviting President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, to testify before the Republican-controlled Senate Judiciary Committee to expose Joe Biden's highly questionable dealings with Ukraine, his son's highly questionable dealings, something the left is totally ignoring right now. Meanwhile, as we first reported right here on this show last night, Mayor Giuliani is threatening to sue Adam Schiff and Rashida Tlaib for trying to remove a president based on false testimony and deliberate misrepresentation. Joining me right now, President Trump's personal attorney, Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Good to see you, sir.
Very nice to be here, Trish. Thank you for having me.
You've been making lots of news. I want to get to your news in a second, but first,
sure.
I want to start with what the heck really happened. I mean, right? The improprieties there. Walk us through it, because it's certainly improper, right, for the son of a vice president to be getting that kind of money from any kind of Ukrainian company that he doesn't have the credentials to be on the board of. But it may not be illegal. I guess that's where I'm wondering what the heck did any of this go back to Joe Biden himself?
Well, let's look at it this way, Trish. If that was a one-off, we'd have a highly unethical conflict. Contrary to what Joe Biden said today, there was no conflict. Even the New York Times said there was a conflict. Yeah. Joe really kind of lost it today. I don't know if you saw the clip, but he got very, very angry. He reminded me of some of the people I investigated when I was U.S. attorney losing it. But the reality is that what happened in Ukraine is, if seen as a one-off, could be an isolated case of technical bribery. Mm-hmm. Offering something of value in exchange for official action is the classic common law crime of bribery. Biden did that. He offered $1.2 billion loan guarantee, threatened to take it away in order to intimidate, strong arm is his word, the president of Ukraine to fire the prosecutor. Technical crime of bribery. Now, as a prosecutor, you probably wouldn't prosecute it unless there was a motive. Mm-hmm. Now, the motive was to bury the case on his son, on Soros, and on Mykola Zlochevsky, who was able to keep his $5 billion and return to Russia and keep employing his son for 4 more years. Now, you'd have to say, well, Joe's defense is, I didn't know about my family's business. Well, that's strange credulity, because his family has been doing corrupt things like this for about 30 years. He first gave that excuse somewhere back in the 90s, where his brother was taking down loans from people who were indebted to Joe and telling them, this is how you get to my brother. Mm-hmm. He would say, I don't talk to my brother about his business. I don't know, the 3rd, 4th time you say that, I, as an investigator, former U.S. attorney, former Justice Department official, and somebody who has prosecuted far more clever criminals than Joe Biden could ever be, would say that that's a pretty darn good case over the years of something like this. Actually, Politico first revealed it. Biden, Inc. He got elected to the Senate. His brother monetized his Senate seat for millions of dollars. He got elected vice president, and then they monetized his vice presidency for hundreds of millions, certainly tens of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. It's just too often. It's just too frequent. It's just too many times saying, I don't know my family's business, when his family's business was in the newspapers. Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, look,
it's as phony as a $3 bill. It's
clearly a conflict of interest. He should know. I mean, it's your own son, for goodness sakes. It's not a conflict of interest.
It's corrupt as heck. That's what it is. It's big. It's a big scandal. It's a big pay-for-play scheme. It raises the question how much more like this was going on in the Obama administration. It sure sounds like the Clinton Foundation to me, mm-hmm. where they were selling out the country and getting donations to the Clinton Foundation, mm-hmm. and Obama was, gee, I don't see it.
Okay, so then the question becomes, conflict of interest, maybe far worse. I mean, to your point, it could be much worse than a conflict of interest. But then why is the President of the United States asking about it? Why is he doing any digging? Why doesn't he leave it to, you and others to do all that? Why get involved?
Because this came up not having to do with Joe Biden running for president. It came up to me in November of 2018, over almost a year ago, when several Ukrainians reached out to me through an intermediary, mm-hmm. and told me I wouldn't believe it. For a year and a half, they have been trying to give us evidence that more collusion took place in Ukraine than in Russia, where they believe no collusion took place. So I jumped on that because, Trish, I'm his defense lawyer. If I were doing this for a terrorist, those phonies in the Senate and the House would be defending me. I'm doing it for the President of the United States. He's my client. I'm defending him. Every bit of my investigation took place before the Muller probe ended. So I was gathering this evidence to rebut any false finding that Muller would make that there was Russian collusion, because I could slam right in his face a lot more Ukrainian collusion that you covered up, Muller.
But, you know, the concern is why would your name come up in a conversation with the president of Ukraine? Why would President Trump be talking about Rudy Giuliani?
He didn't talk about me.
No, actually,
Trish.
Technically, you are right, sir.
I'm not technically right. I am right.
No, you're right. You're right. I saw the memo, the transcript. I read it, highlighter and all.
So ask yourself, why did Zelensky bring me up?
Yeah, why?
Why did Zelensky bring me up? Because for 5 months before, actually 8 months before, I had been investigating Ukrainian collusion that interfered in the 2016 election. It resulted in a Ukrainian court decision, the only court decision that found collusion in our election. It's collusion between 2 Ukrainians and Hillary Clinton. I have a whole gathering of evidence about that. I don't have the rest of it because Joe Biden bribed the president of the Ukraine, who then had the next prosecutor dismiss the case that contained that evidence, called the Antac case, along with Burisma, along with Biden's son. I wasn't looking for Joe Biden. The Ukrainians gave me Joe Biden, and they said, do you know something? He interfered with your case. At the time that I did it, he wasn't a presidential candidate. What was I supposed to do? Like the phony press here?
Why would the Ukrainians do that? I mean, does a part of you say, hey, you know, maybe they're trying to play everyone? You know, they cozy up to Biden, they cozy up to Obama and that administration. Now they're trying to cozy up to people that know Trump.
They did it because for 3 years, 5 years, the Bidens were the joke of the Ukraine. Joe would go there. 13 times he went there. 13 times in an 8-year term. 13 times he went to Ukraine, and 13 times he lectured on corruption, and the Ukrainian people said, what a phony. You put your son in a job he has no experience for. You put him in a job where his firm is making over $1 million a year. You put him in a job right after he got tossed out of the Navy for drugs, and you put him in a country like Ukraine where there were a lot of drugs and a lot of other problems, and you don't think we think you're corrupt? You don't think we think that your country is hypocritical? And don't you think the President of the United States has to vindicate that? Don't you think we have to straighten it out? Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, something that these Democrats have trashed, says the President of the United States has the obligation to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. Joe Biden trashed the laws of the United States to the embarrassment of my country. And I found that not because he's a candidate for president. He was only thinking about it then. I found it, and I started my career, and maybe I'll end it, rooting out corruption at the highest levels of government. And I've done Republicans and Democrats, and there's only one thing, only one criminal I think is worse than a corrupt politician selling out his oath of office, and that's a murderer.
Wow. All right. Giuliani with us. Don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
Mayor Giuliani is back right after this quick break.